Hello everyone, today I am going to talk about communication skills. Now, let me first talk about what is communication. When we exchange facts, ideas, opinions or emotions, it is basically known as communication. It is a process of passing information from one person to another. Communication is a very essential part of our life. Communication helps us to express our feelings. It also satisfies our emotional needs of security, belongingness, and recognition. Communication also helps us to build relationships. It also helps us to strengthen relationships. Communication also helps us in developing our career. In order to survive, we definitely need to communicate with one another. Now I would like to talk about forms of communication. There are different forms of communication. I would just be talking about a few. The first one is one-way and two-way communication. So what is one-way communication? When the speaker does not receive any kind of feedback or response, that is known as one-way communication. For example, when a newsreader is reading news on television or radio, that is an example of one-way communication. When we see advertisements on television, that is one-way communication. When we see hoardings, that is one-way communication. Next is two-way communication. Now, two-way communication involves the speaker as well as the listener, or the sender and the receiver. So, in two-way communication, the speaker or the sender always receives a feedback or a response or a reply. For example, when two people sit in front of each other and interact with one another, that is a kind of two-way communication. When you talk with your friends over the telephone, that is a two-way communication. Next, I am going to discuss about formal and informal communication. So, what is formal communication? Formal communication is basically structured communication on the basis of authority, accountability. For example, when you talk with your boss regarding some official matter, that is a formal communication. Conferences, departmental meetings are examples of formal communication. When you discuss about work, that is basically formal communication. The other one is informal communication. So, informal communication is something that we always do. When we talk about our personal needs, our personal wants, our personal life, that is basically termed as informal communication. Next, verbal and non-verbal communication. So, verbal communication is something when we use words and communicate with the other person, that is verbal communication. So, there are two types of verbal communication. One is oral communication and the other one is written communication. In both the process of communication, whether we are talking to someone or we have written something to someone, in both the cases we are using words. So, that is why it is known as verbal communication. Next is non-verbal communication. So, non-verbal communication is basically that kind of communication when we don't use words. So, we communicate with the help of body language, we communicate with the help of facial expressions, we communicate with the help of body postures, gestures, eye contact. So, that is basically known as nonverbal communication.